welcome to the show. Ho, ho, ho! Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton in Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south. You're the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful December the 28th, 2020. Grande Deportes, bonjour, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, we've gotten through one more week of the NFL with one more week to go before the playoff seedings are set. And it's amazing that the last week of the season, there's 11 teams that don't know what they're going to be doing as far as playoff seeding. So once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, nurses, doctors, first responders. They always know what they're doing.
They always know, Big C. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. Never stop arriving. Also, all around the world, say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away. And I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at a stupid picture. Man, I love pausing. I was pausing so much after I ate so much food for the holidays, but I will never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. Big C, why should everyone care? Your thoughts?
Charlton, it's a shame that many of our veterans won't see 2021. We lose over 2,000 veterans a day to suicide in this country, a horrific number that no one really pays attention to. I know everyone's preoccupied with COVID-19 and getting the vaccine, but there's no vaccine being created for suicide. A disease has been going on too long in America and around the world, Charlton.
Yep.
And it has afflicted many of our military veterans who have felt that they had no place to turn to, Charlton. Many of our veterans have been homeless, financially destitute, physically broken, Charlton, and no place to turn to. We as a country have to do more to think about our veterans and how they've allowed for us to get this point of sovereignty in the world that we have, allowed us to live free in what's supposed to be the greatest nation in the world.
Yep.
That has not been the greatest nation for them, that has turned their back on them. Suicide is something that could be preventable, Charlton, if enough attention was paid to it by our American politicians, but they seem not to. They're preoccupied with other things. But hopefully, beyond us just giving out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton,
Yep.
it will become more of a concern of every American citizen.
And I believe it will, Big C. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can definitely get some help. Also, very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, Direct TV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants. When you reach out to them, just tell them Big C sent you, as well as a home run leader, Barry Bonds. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country to put people back to work, just like McDonald's does it, car dealerships do it, and sports teams are doing it too when they're not on pause. Let TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. That's bigcsports.pacwm.com. I also want to say thank you to Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. Big C, I hope that you had a very Merry Christmas. I heard there were a lot of white men flying around with red suits, but that was down at Donald Trump's golf course, Big C. How was your Christmas?
Christmas was fun as usual, relaxing, Charlton. I don't have the little kids around to have all the rampage and torn paper all over the floor, but I celebrated nevertheless.
Yeah, celebrated nevertheless. I'm going to tell you, I had a very Merry Christmas, and I know we give out a lot of thanks and gratitude, and I was watching some Wayne Brady doing, I think it was Price is Right, and he says, welcome to the show, so I appreciate Wayne Brady doing this thing down in Hollywood. But I was asking Santa for a lot of things, Big C, and ironically, I know people talk about social distancing, doing everything the doctors say as much as humanly possible. I was able to spend some time with my beautiful mother for the holidays, and I know you and I just did a program on this about a month ago about the CBD oils and how there's a lot of people that have issues as you get up in age. You know, you get aches and pains. Well, we rubbed her down with some CBD oil, the same way we do with other oils. She got a great night's sleep. Normally she wakes up like every other hour. She has an appetite like a football player. She won't stop eating. And she's more active. It's like she's 10 years younger, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, maybe I need to get myself some CBD oil. Charlton. In my old age, I find myself waking up every hour or so at night for various reasons.
Yeah.
Aches and pains throughout my body all day long.
Yep.
Maybe I need to go that route.
Well, I'm telling you, because I was going to do a golf tournament with some NFL Hall of Fame players over in Napa in the Bay Area. And because of everything that's happening with COVID, everything's been on pause. But I'm telling you, I'm just going to mention his name because he's in an article. People can Google it. Jim Plunkett played football at Stanford, and then he was drafted by the Boston Patriots, I believe. And he's played for the 49ers, some other NFL teams, won 2 Super Bowls for the Oakland Raiders under the great Tom Flores. Neither of them are in the Hall of Fame. It's a shame. I believe they're going to get him in the next vote. But he was in an article. There's a former Oakland Raider that played that was talking about a CBD industry that is given to a lot of athletes that had a hard time walking, a hard time sleeping. And Jim Plunkett swears that it saved his life, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, many athletes have gone that route over the past several years. CBD oils have become legalized in America, and they found quite a bit of relief. Even Gronk, who had retired from the New England Patriots, got into the CBD oil business, Charlton, before coming back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And during the last 2 Super Bowls, many NFL former players have been around stumping their CBD products at the conventions prior to the game.
Yeah, so I'm a big believer, and I know that pharmaceuticals have their own input, but former Speaker of the House John Boehner is also head of one of the major corporations on Wall Street that are heavily invested into the same product that made my mother feel like she's 10 years younger, and that's proof. We got it on tape. It's all fair and love and war. I want to get also with what was on tape, Big C. If the NFL is amazing, but who that said they're going to beat them Saints, maybe they found this CBD oil, Big C. It's not the beats that helped them win. The Saints 52, the Vikings 33, and it was not a basketball game, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this game was all about Alvin Kamara, the New Orleans Saints running back, the all-purpose back. When you think about his dismantling of the Minnesota Vikings just by himself, he left your cousin in awe there in Minnesota, Charlton.
Yeah.
He outscored them 36-33. When you think about the 6 record-tying touchdowns that Alvin Kamara scored in this game, Charlton, to go along with a career-high 155 yards rushing, averaging 7.3 yards per carry. The Minnesota Vikings did not have an answer for him, nor did your cousin try to get Dalvin Cook involved in the game.
Yeah, it's amazing when you think about how well the Saints moved the ball, Big C, very well against the Vikings, scoring into the 50s, generating 200-plus net yards of offense in the first quarter alone. Don't tell me they don't have CBD down in New Orleans, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you think about the total point output from the New Orleans Saints against the Minnesota Vikings defense, this is the most points that the Vikings franchise has given up since 1963. So you think about some of those great years and great defenses that the Minnesota Vikings have had.
Yeah.
None of them had given up this many points, Charlton, in over 5 decades in the NFL.
Yeah.
But the New Orleans Saints seem to be back on track. Drew Brees is trying to get back in form. after suffering those damaged ribs, Charlton.
Yep.
He seemed to be able to get the ball down the field a little better this game than what he did in the last. He still doesn't have full strength in that, Charlton, but he showed the capability of carrying the New Orleans Saints through the playoffs.
Yeah, Big C, he was doing his thing. 19 of 26, 311 yards, but did not throw a single touchdown, and he had 2 picks, but it was still enough to put over 50 on any NFL football team, and you're doing a lot of good things the right way, and I'm sure the Saints are going to keep it rolling as they get into the playoffs. Cousins was 27 of 41, 291 yards, and he also threw 3 touchdowns, so maybe he's not other CBD's. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, his problem was he didn't get Dalvin Cook involved in the game.
Yeah.
Early he allowed him to carry the ball, but they took Dalvin Cook out of the game by trailing and feeling that they had to pass the ball to catch up.
Yeah.
But the Minnesota Vikings will only be as good as Dalvin Cook is on any game day.
Big C, Dalvin Cook, 73 yards on 15 carries. Most good running backs, they got to touch the rock 20 times to get their groove on. He had 73 yards on only 15 carries, and they forgot that he was on the team. It's all fair and level war. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they didn't match what New Orleans did, but Gronk, maybe he's handing out cocktails, if that makes sense to you, Big C. Buccaneers 47, the Detroit Lions 7. Normally when a pirate eats a lion, they do it for dinner, Big C, but they just did it for fun, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, see, when you think about Tampa, what they have done, this is the first time they've been in the playoffs, I believe, since 2008, Charlton, and this is what they brought Tom Brady in for, to get that offense untracked, and they were untracked against the Detroit Lions. Matthew Stafford went out in the first series of the game with a bad ankle. I think he just wanted to save face more than anything else.
Yeah.
And the New England Patriots had their way after that. Tom Brady hit a wealth of receivers throughout the game. They were open for touchdowns, Charlton. That Tampa Bay defense played lights out against that Detroit offense that had no answer for them, Charlton.
No.
And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are once again back in the NFL playoffs.
Speaking of back, when a pirate eats a lion, it's usually something that they enjoy in their bellies. Speaking of eating lions, you can order the Big C Burger. It's a tasty burger. It comes with exotic meats, and you get it at participating restaurants. It goes great with the Budweiser Zero. It has 0% alcohol, and it goes great with the Big C Burger. Tom Brady was 22 of 27. He was 348 yards, and he had 4 touchdowns. And he did that in the first half alone, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, he didn't play in the second half. Tampa Bay had enough of a commanding lead that they were allowed to rest some players, Charlton, and get some backups in just in case they needed some help in the playoffs.
Yeah, and we were asking with Santa watched this game, and he was wondering which quarterback had the $100+ million contract after that game was over. It's all fair and love and war. Big C, man, sometime when you're looking for gold, you got to look out and move those Cardinals out of the way. The 49ers went looking for gold. They're not going to find the playoffs, but they can find some gold. They found some gold down in the desert. It's pretty rude when you go into your opponent's house and beat them 49ers 20, Cardinals 12, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, it's also been the 49ers' house. They've been down in the desert for the past 3 weeks. The Cardinals have been one of the mysteries of the NFL this year, Jekyll and Hyde team.
Yeah.
You think about Kyler Murray, what he did offensively the week before, throwing for over 400 yards. You thought he might be able to carry that hot hand into this game against the 49ers, which he wasn't. He had one of his highest rushing games of the year on the ground, but he left the game late with a leg injury, so he's going to be questionable for next week, and the Cardinals need to win that game next week against the Rams to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, he was 31 of 50, 247 yards. He also rested for 8 times for 75 yards. The 49ers were without 11 starters in this game. That's amazing. 4 on offense, 7 on defense, and they found a way to play a little bit better against a team that's beaten up a little bit, but we'll see what happens going into the playoffs if the Cardinals get there. I think they can sneak in if they have one wing, if that makes sense to you, Big C. I got to ask you a question, because you and I were talking about African-American quarterbacks and then African-American coaches. There are only 3 African-American coaches in the NFL in 2020. You have Ron Rivera, who's another person of color, but Brian Flores with the Miami Dolphins. And I remember asking you, and anyone listening in the universe, the Dolphins were flying into Las Vegas, and waiting for them were the Las Vegas Raiders with the great John Gruden. And there was a time in this game when the Raiders are still in playoff contention. All they had to do is run the damn ball. But that genius of a quarterback coach and Gruden, Big C, they decided not to. Long story short, the Dolphins come away with a Ryan Fitzpatrick miracle pass in the end, 26-25 over the Raiders, and they never should have had the chance to make the play had Gruden not screwed up on the sideline. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, there was more than one screw up in the game. People will always look at the final outcome and say, what if they had done this? You know, I mean, with 19 seconds to go in the game, you don't expect for an NFL team to have an opportunity to come back against you after you kick the ball off to them. But there were a couple of bad things that happened in the Raiders' behalf, Charlton.
Yeah.
You know, Ryan Fitzpatrick had a face mask called against the defense on that pass. That face mask forced Fitzpatrick to underthrow the ball, because I don't think without that face mask, Fitzpatrick wouldn't have thrown that ball out of bounds. So a lot of bad things happened for the Raiders on one play. You get a 35-yard completion, you get a 15-yard face mask personal foul penalty tacked on top of it, Charles.
Yep.
And then you get a field goal kicked against you that knocks you out of the playoffs. But this is a win that the Miami Dolphins needed. And, you know, the thing about sports is that you play until the final whistle.
Yeah.
And that's something that the Raiders did not do in this game, and that's what cost them that loss.
Yeah, and so you have a quarterback in Carr. I think Carr did great coming back from the groin injury. And then Tua was doing what he could, but they pull him on the side. And then you have Swaggy Fitzpatrick that was doing his thing like the good old boy from Miami Vice back in the day. And when you think about it, Fitzpatrick was 9 of 13, 182 yards, and a touchdown. Tua was 17 of 22 for 94 yards. So I know Coach is going to do what he can with Tua, but if I'm Coach Big C, I'm going with Fitzpatrick against the Bills. I mean, that's just my opinion. I mean, everybody has their own thoughts, but that's my opinion, and it looks like it's just amazing. But I want to ask you one more thought on this, because nobody else will. And I want everyone to have success. But if you look at the AFC West, I would say that John Gruden is still, media-wise, the media darling. But Anthony Lynn gets scolded for sometimes having screw-ups with the Chargers. And I do think the Chargers are a better team than the Raiders if they had a better field goal kicker. But what does this tell you about Flores, who had a hard time getting a head coaching job, goes into the desert and beats a $100 million coach? Big C, your thoughts?
What it tells me about the situation, Charlton, white guys will always get head coaching jobs in the NFL. That's how the business is set up. That's who runs these billion-dollar businesses. And so they want people that look like them when they put people in charge. The scenario with John Gruden, yes, he's made a lot of bad decisions. From a coaching perspective, you would have thought that he'd have ran more time off the clock when he had an opportunity to do that in the game, but he chose not to. So a lot of bad decisions in this game by the Raiders and throughout the season, you have to put on John Gruden's shoulders. Does the media give him a pass? Yes, they do, because he was part of that fraternity for 10 years. So it's hard to turn your back on somebody that was a part of the fraternity. You don't ever hear them say anything negative about Jason Witten, the backup tight end with the Raiders. And he was a part of that industry.
Yeah.
So the industry protects the industry.
Yeah. I think that Jack Nicholson said, I want the truth. And Tom Cruise said, you can't handle the truth. Or was it Tom that said, I want the truth? And Jack said, you can't handle the truth. But anyway, the truth will set you free, if that makes sense to you. Carr was 21 of 34, 336 yards. But it's all fair and level word. Big C, I'm going to tell you something, because you talked about it before the game. You've been talking about it since the beginning of the season. If the Cleveland Browns realize that they have one of the better backfields in the NFL, that they would be a playoff team. So I don't know why Baker Mayfield went to New York City and threw the ball over 50 times. The Jets 23, Browns 16. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the Cleveland Browns are 1-6 with Baker Mayfield throwing the ball more than 50 times in the NFL. And that's their Achilles heel. But I don't blame Baker Mayfield totally for this. There's a guy on the sideline named Kevin Stefanski, a head coach, who allowed Baker Mayfield to keep throwing the football. So he has to take as much blame in this loss as Baker Mayfield does. The 3 fumbles that Baker Mayfield had in the game does not help at all. He lost 2 of those, which turned into points for the New York Jets. But the New York Jets, over the last 5 games, have been a much better team than their record has indicated. They have gone out and taken it to teams. So one of the things people need to understand about NFL players, they're not out there to tank for some potential rookie that may come in and they be unemployed the following year, Charlton. They're out there to win. That's how they get a paycheck. They prepare every week as professional athletes. They go out every week and try to execute the game plan that's laid out for them as professional athletes. They want to win. They have pride, you know.
They got pride and they got a paycheck, which they want to keep. And your friend Baker Mayfield was 28 throws, 28 of 53, 285 yards. I just thought, why aren't they running the football? I mean, don't give up on one of the best running backs in the NFL behind you. It's all fair and love and war. Frank Gore, who's 900 years old, 14 carries for 48 yards. And a good thing about Frank, think about this. He reached an important milestone. Frank Gore became the third running back in NFL history to eclipse 16,000 yards. He's only looking at Emmitt Smith and Walter Payton. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's hit that milestone, Charlton, which is a marvelous feat. Only 3 running backs in NFL history have gotten to that point, and I think this will be his swan song in New York.
Yeah, they've been singing his swan song for about 7 years, Big C. It's all fair in love and war. Chubb must have 28 yards and 11 carries, but had he had 20 carries, he probably would have cracked the 100-yard mark, as a lot of good ones do. Big C, sometimes when you're dangling a carrot in front of somebody, that somebody might grab that carrot. And the Chiefs, they keep dangling a carrot. I know they're the best football team in the universe, but the Kansas City Chiefs, they keep flirting with disaster. They needed a come-from-behind win at home against the Falcons. The Chiefs 17, defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs 17, Atlanta Falcons 14. Big C, your thoughts?
You know, everyone in sports uses the analogy of playing up to your competition.
Yeah.
I think the Kansas City Chiefs play down to their competition. I think that this is a football team that is actually bored at what they do. They do so many gadget situations throughout a football game that, they're just trying to amuse themselves. They have the feeling that at any time that they want, with Patrick Mahomes playing quarterback, they can turn it on and drive the ball down the field. I mean, we've seen it throughout the season.
Yeah.
We've seen it 14 out of 15 games that they've been able to do that. And yet people complain about the Kansas City Chiefs not going out there scoring 40 or 50 points a game. All the Kansas City Chiefs do is concern about their record, which is 14-1.
Yeah. There you go with the facts again. Sometimes you got to get the emotion inside, and it's better when you run it up. Like Jimmy Johnson said, you don't want us to run it up. Play better defense. Touchdown, Patrick Mahomes. He was 24-44, 270 yards. But be honest, Big C, as a defensive guy, 2 touchdowns, 1 interceptions. But it doesn't tell the whole story. There were another 3 potential interceptions. I think they've lost their focus, or maybe reading their press clippings too much, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, potential versus reality is 2 different things.
Yeah.
He left the game with 1 interception.
Yeah.
He left the game with 2 touchdown passes. Those 2 touchdown passes was the difference in the victory.
Yeah.
At no point in the game did anybody ever see the Kansas City Chiefs worried. They went out there lackadaisical, as usual, saying, hey, when we need to score, we will score. They did that, and they won the game once again.
Yeah, some good old boys in Vegas are worried. They were so worried they were eating on the Big C burger. It is a tasty burger. It comes with exotic meats, and you get it at participating restaurants. Your friend, Matt Ryan, man, I wonder what Arthur Blank thinks about $155 million, and they can't win a game if they have 2 minutes to play in their head. Ryan, 27-35, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. Has had some struggles this year, but he was terrific in the contest. Outside of being sacked, he just cannot get away from the blitz. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, that's a problem with an NFL quarterback when you lack mobility and they know where you're going to be in the pocket.
Yeah.
This is one of the things that the Chiefs defense feasts on, Charlton. When they're ahead or the game is tight, they bring the pressure. They know where a quarterback is going to be. And you can see that they had Matt Ryan unsettled late in the game. Yeah,
late in the game. But I want to ask your thoughts, too, because 300 yards was a good passing day. Calvin Ridley, as expected, Atlanta's receiving leader, 5 catches, 130 yards. If he can get 5 catches, 130, why not throw the ball 15 times, Big C? Your thoughts?
It's easy to say that 300 yards is a good passing day. But when you look on the scoreboard and you're always losing with a 300-yard passing day, is it really a good passing day, or do you need to divert your game more to the run and have a little more ball control and keep the opposing team off the field?
Very well said. Very well said. Well, congratulations, Patrick Touchdown Mahomes. But you scared a lot of people down in Vegas. They like it when the game's already put away, if that makes sense to you. I think there was a time when Lou Holtz said Notre Dame went 13-0 and they won the national championship, and he was feeling pretty good, beating his chest, and some of the boosters wanted to talk to him, and he was thinking they were going to congratulate him. And they were saying, we know you went 13-0, but why do some of the games have to be so close? Sometimes they don't like close games, Big C, if that makes sense to you. The Pittsburgh Mighty Steelers, man, they found their steel, Big C. In fact, they may have found Mean Joe Green, Mel Blount, and touchdown Franco Harris. The Steelers 28, Indianapolis Colts 24. How do you blow such a large lead, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I didn't think that the Steelers would win another game the rest of the year, but then I forgot that they were playing the Indianapolis Colts. Philip Rivers was playing quarterback, and he was very turnover-prone, which he was in this game. I mean, to have a 21-point first-half lead, Charlton, a 17-point first-half lead, and turn around and lose the game because Philip Rivers decides he has to go back into his old act and have a couple of turnovers against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ben Roethlisberger in the fourth quarter had 3 consecutive touchdown drives, Charlton, 3 consecutive touchdown passes to get the Steelers back on track in a much-needed victory after having 3 consecutive losses.
Yeah, it's amazing what you're saying. I think about Big Ben, and I thought he had some arm injuries, but he did come out much better in the first half. He was 11 of 20, just 100 yards in the opening half. He was great in the second half, Big C, 23 of 30, 29, 242 yards and 3 touchdowns. Would have thrown a 4th second-half touchdown had Chase Claypool not dropped the ball in the end zone. The Steelers got to get some Stickum or some CBD oil, whatever they got to get. They can't keep dropping. If this was a playoff game and they're dropping balls, they're not going to come back from being down 17, Big C. Your thoughts? All right, Big C. I know Donald Trump begrudgingly refunded the United States, I guess, the COVID bill stimulus package, and then the House Representative overturned his veto of the defense bill, but they also keep cutting our phone lines. They don't have to cut our phone lines every time, but Big Ben did his thing, 34-49, 342 yards, 3 touchdowns, and it's amazing. You know what happened in this game? Juju Smith-Schuster did not stand on somebody's logo at midfield, and they won. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, we got to get over the childish antics of a lot of these black athletes, what they do, as far as being more concerned with their social media page and how many hits that they get on that versus going out playing football, a game that they're paid for millions of dollars, Charlton, and concentrate on it.
Yeah, I never saw Mean Joe Green go into anybody's stadium, he's a Hall of Famer, and jump up and down on somebody's logo. He was normally trying to jump up and down on the quarterback, if that makes sense to you. The Steelers get a much-needed win. Coach Tomlin had those good boys playing. We're going to do one more game before we come up on the Big C pause, and it was the Baltimore Ravens with the Superman Lamar Jackson, 27, and the New York Giants. I guess they decided they don't want to get to the playoffs, 13. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the Giants are limping out of the season right now, Charlton. They desperately needed that game to stay in the hunt for the NFC East title, but the Baltimore Ravens came out running the ball soundly. They had 3 guys carry the ball for over 77 yards in the game, and that was the difference, that dominant run game of the Ravens versus the lackluster Giants.
Yeah, in Baltimore, 249 rushing yards. Touchdown, Lamar Jackson, Superman, was 17 of 26, 183 yards. He also had 13 carries for 80 rushing yards, and they're playing like they want to get back into the playoffs. Remember, Lamar had COVID-19, and a lot of people are treating COVID-19 like it's a headache. Oh, I'll take a couple of aspirin and I'll be better in a day. But that's not the case. He was saying that it wore his body down, and so even though he was not very accurate earlier in the year, people can see the difference with him. Jones for the Giants, 24 of 41, 252 yards, and a touchdown. No turnovers, but the Giants just seem like they've had enough of playing football, and they can't wait until they can watch it on TV, if that makes sense to you. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about some NFL football and get Big C's thoughts. And in the words of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger, we'll be back. All right, we are back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts, and I really do appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. I also want to say thank you to Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just open your cell phones and, like God said, let there be light. Say play Big C Sports podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up, and you can hear Big C starts 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I really do appreciate the growth of Big C Sports. Big C, the Cincinnati Bengals, I didn't think they would get this, but they beat the Texans by the score of 37-31, and this was a team, they were 2-10-1 coming into it. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, so much pressure's been put on Deshaun Watson this year, Charlton, but that Houston Texans defense is pathetic. I mean, it's one of the worst in the NFL. The Cincinnati Bengals have had a couple outstanding weeks back-to-back here in the NFL, beating up on the Steelers and now beating up on the Texans.
Yep.
But the Texans defense is just shabby. They need to strip it down and start all over.
Yeah, they were missing all their secondary. But I do want to give Watson a lot of credit. Like he said, he can't do it all. 24 of 33, 324 yards, 3 touchdowns. He played well considering his diminished supporting cast. The fumble in the afternoon, I mean, he's not perfect, but he had a heck of a game. But their defense is just not there. I want to take it to a game that was it was more like an exhibition. The Chicago Bears 41, the Jacksonville Jaguars 17. I'm not saying they're looking for the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, but losing 41-17 to the Bears, they'll probably get it. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they secured the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're just playing out the string, Charlton. They're not trying to win a game. The Bears are hopefully, putting themselves in playoff contention. They need a win this upcoming weekend to make the playoffs. Montgomery had an outstanding game. Mr. Trubisky is looking solid. Maybe the Bears will keep him around and sign him to a new contract.
Yeah, maybe they'll keep him around and sign him. He was 24-35, 265 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had an interception. Montgomery ran for 95 yards and a touchdown on 23 carries and 2 receptions of 26 yards. Robinson was 10 of receptions, 103 yards. And then Glenham completed 24-37 for 211 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. I want to bring you to a story, and this is why I call you the mystic. I don't think you wish bad on anybody, but sometimes you just want the truth. What did the great Jack Nicklaus say? It was Nicholson. I said, I want the truth. And Tom Cruise said, you can't handle the truth. Or was it Tom that said he wanted the truth? And Jack said, you can't handle the truth. Somebody couldn't handle the truth. But the truth is, the Carolina Panthers 20, the Washington Redskins 13, and as you were saying, Dwayne Haskins would rather hang out at strip clubs than to hang out studying his NFL playbook. And they decided to say, you can see all the strip clubs you want, but you can't do it here, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, this was a game that the Carolina Panthers went in and could have easily lost. Washington desperately needed this game to secure a place in the playoffs, but they just did not get that performance from Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, and I don't understand. I know they have openings at Walmart, and this is not the first time that he's had some things that, Coach Rivera at one time coached an NFL MVP in Cam Newton and Carolina Panthers. And it's ironic that against his same former team that he decides that this player in Haskins, and no one knows more than Ron Rivera, that it's just time to go a different direction. I guess Haskins would rather hang out in the strip clubs, and I'm not saying anything wrong with that, but something was going on where they didn't feel like he cared enough. So maybe he can have his wish and hang out at strip clubs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Bridgewater, 19-28, 197 yards with a touchdown and an interception. He also fumbled twice, losing 1. Davis, 28 yards and a touchdown of 14 catches. And then Hoskins, 14-28, 154 yards and 2 interceptions. He played even worse than the numbers suggest. But I got to get your feeling, because I always advocate for young players, especially people who are African-American, because it's difficult for them to get into that good old boy network. You can be a white guy and not be good at all, and they'll still keep you on an NFL roster. Some backup guys are making $4 million a year and don't even play a snap. So what would you say to Hoskins if you wanted to help him see the light at the end of the tunnel for a second chance someplace else, Big? So your thoughts?
Charlton, Haskins is just the latest of young black quarterbacks who have made these stupid, asinine decisions not to be a professional football player. They're more concerned about what their social activity, what their social pages say, and what they can do when they're out in public. If they dedicated that much damn time to the team as far as studying, being the first guy in the building, the last guy in the building. How many times we hear that about white quarterbacks? being the first guy in the building, the last guy in the building. How many times have we heard over the years black quarterbacks getting in trouble off the field, whether it's in a strip club or whatever? We've seen it with damn near every one of the black starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Look at Jamarcus Russell, number 1 pick overall over a decade ago with the Raiders.
Yeah.
He couldn't even get his fat butt on the field because he was more concerned about partying, drinking, and eating than he was about working out and making himself a good quarterback. Charlton, I go all the way back to the first black quarterback drafted in the NFL, Derek Dickey. Derek Dickey was so lazy and lackadaisical when the Raiders drafted him number 1 overall. They drafted Kenny Stabler number 2 overall. They switched Derek Dickey to wide receiver because he didn't want to put in the time to learn the NFL playbook. Just think about the history that Kenny Stabler made. That could have been Derek Dickey, a black quarterback. Look at Joe Gilliam, black quarterback with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They win 4 Super Bowls. Instead of Joe Gilliam wanting to dedicate himself completely, he thought he could just play with his arm talent, and that would be enough in the NFL to get him past. Yet, to be known, he's out of the NFL while the Steelers are still out there winning Super Bowls, Charlton. We've seen too much of this. As black quarterbacks, you need to understand, you got a billionaire owner making you the CEO of his organization. He's making you the chief operating officer of his organization. You have to take that serious. And you wonder why more blacks don't get opportunities is because of situations like this, that they say the guy is not there. He's not ready. Regardless of the talent you might see in college, we don't always understand the lack of talent he displayed away from the playing field. You just don't judge an NFL quarterback about what he does between the yard lines on game day. It's about game preparation. It's about life preparation. And Dwayne Haskins was not willing to make that investment.
Yeah, and there's a lot of guys that put in the time before the guys that don't. That just it's a head scratcher because they won't pay you that much money at a strip club with the COVID-19 establishing violation of protocol. But hey, maybe he wants to work at Walmart instead. The NFL might be overrated, making people millions, but he could get $7 to $15 an hour. The Chargers 19, the Lightning Bolts, Big C. I'm staunchly advocating for Anthony Lynn to keep that job in Los Angeles with the Chargers, because if they had a better kicker, they would be knocking on the door of the playoffs. 19, the Denver Broncos 16, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the Chargers tried to give that game away late, Charlton. I mean, a desperately needed divisional win for the Chargers. I'm not sure that it's enough to keep Anthony Lynn's job, but it did allow Justin Herbert to break the NFL touchdown passing record for a single season for a rookie.
Yeah.
He surpassed Baker Mayfield's record in this game. Now he's the all-time touchdown leading passer for a rookie in the NFL in his first season.
Big C, what did Justin Herbert? What college did Justin Herbert play college football? Big C, your thoughts?
I think it's that college, Charlton, that dominated the Pac-12 to get the college football playoff.
Exactly. They got a quarterback from the Pac-12 that gets always shut out by the bowl committee, and they have the quarterback, the only one in the history of the universe that set an NFL record. It's amazing how people close their eyes when they're choosing what team should play.
But answer this question for me. That quarterback from Oregon in the Pac-12 to set the record, what did he do in his senior year in college in his first game?
Yeah, he went without 4 starting wide receivers, and they lost in the
last.
last.
Did he win or lose? Don't tell me about the rest of the guys on the
well,
roster.
you got
quarterbacks get blamed for winning and losing. Did he win or lose against a freshman quarterback?
Hey, how good is Santa without all of his reindeers? You can't just win with Rudolph, if that makes sense to you. When you don't have all your players, it makes a difference. And they went down to 9 seconds before that game was stolen by Auburn. But it's all fair and love and war. Herbert, I want to call him Justin Touchdown Herbert, 21 of 33, 253 yards, 1 touchdown. He did lose a fumble. He was not intercepted, but he was lucky. I mean, it's amazing how that team is going to be so good next year with the Chargers. I really appreciate Melvin Gordon, 76 yards on 16 carries. Big C, a game out west. You know, I always like watching teams play up in Seattle because that stadium is rocking with the 12th man, but now they don't have a 12th man. And I look at the Seahawks with a 20-19 win over the LA Rams. I never thought the Rams, since the Super Bowl where they lost to the Patriots, would not score a touchdown with that offense. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, this is an offense that just did not look healthy against the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
And late in the season, the Seahawks have played much better. The Rams handled them at home early in the year, but as we've come back, Seattle has improved on defense. Getting Adams back on defense has really helped that Seattle defense.
Yeah.
But Jared Goff just did not look good in this game, and late in the game, he ended up breaking his thumb, just like Drew Brees did last year against the Rams. So who knows how far the Rams will be able to get in this final game of the season. Will they be able to make the playoffs? And if so, would Jared Goff be able to play again?
That's going to be very questionable. He was 24 of 43, 234 yards in interception. The great star out of Marin Catholic High School in Kentville, California, up by the Golden Gate Bridge. And then Cal Berkeley didn't do enough to help the Rams get over the hump. Meanwhile,
what conference did Jared Goff play in?
He played in the Pac-12 conference, Big C.
Okay, I just want to check.
Yeah, he's a first-round draft pick by the Rams. It's all fair level word, Big C, and got them to a Super Bowl. He did get them to a Super Bowl, right, Big C? You understand what a Super Bowl is. All fair level war.
How many Super Bowls did Russell Wilson get to?
Well, he only got to 2 so far, but it's still all fair level war coming out of Wisconsin.
And where did he start playing college football?
Well, he was never in one of those Southern conferences. Then he decided.
Okay, just checking. North Carolina State.
He decided that the paperbacks were bigger in Wisconsin and went up to the Badgers. But he was 20 of 32, 225 yards and 2 touchdowns, 1 passing and 1 rushing. It wasn't a great game, but it's a game that in Seattle's defense. Big C, Ken Norton's been doing his thing with that defense lately, Big C. Your thoughts? I know we're having a little static with our phone lines. They keep saying the White House. I don't know why our Big C Sports is broadcasting through the White House. Maybe they'll give us that $900 billion stimulus package of Big C. But Russell Houdini was on 20 of 32, 225 yards. Not the best game, but he did have a decent game. I love how DK Metcalf was doing his thing. Not the greatest game, but the defense, Ken Norton's been doing his job. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, it came down to Seattle being able to run the ball, and that's what they were able to do with their triplets of running backs, Charlton, that held that rush of the Los Angeles Rams back a little bit, allowing Russell Wilson to have the time. But Seattle's offense has not been totally healthy the past month. They need to find more consistency if they plan on advancing in the playoffs. Yeah,
they definitely got to find more points. They need more points, Big C. Dallas Cowboys. How about them Cowboys, Big C? 37-17 over the Philadelphia Eagles. It's a game that I thought the Eagles were going to take. Jalen Hurts, Deshaun Jackson, 81-yard bomb, up 14-3. And then somehow, them Cowboys, how about them Cowboys, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, nobody's happier than Andy Dalton, Charlton, after this. Here's a guy who needed to take at least 50% of the Cowboys snaps this season to get $1 million bonus, and he's going to get that going into next week's game, Charlton, which gives the Dallas Cowboys an opportunity to make the playoffs. If they can win that game next week, they miraculously Mike can find a way to get into the playoffs. But when you look at the Eagles organization, this is a team that totally fell apart. After Fletcher Cox went down in the game, Dallas had their way running the ball against the Philadelphia Eagles. Ezekiel Elliott had his second 100-yard rushing game of the season. Felt a little cocky after the game, but you got to do it more than just twice in a year, making the kind of money you make, and if you want the team to be better than what they are. But the Dallas Cowboys surprised everybody, and Jerry Jones is happy.
Yeah, he's happy. He's not happy about having to pay more money, but he's happy they got to win. Hurts 21 of 39. 342 yards, 1 touchdown. He did have 3 turnovers, but some of that was just in the kind of desperation time. But I still think the Eagles would have done much better had they started Hurts earlier in the year. Dalton was 22 of 30, 377 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. It's great when you don't have a good defensive backfield to stop your passes, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you play the game with the personnel that you bring to the game. I mean, everybody's on an NFL roster. And if you play up to your ability, then you shouldn't have a problem against an opponent.
Yeah, fair enough in Love and War. 2 more games, Big C. The Green Bay Packers, 40. The Tennessee Titans, 14. I thought they would stop the freight train from going on the Lambeau Field, and as I looked, they did stop a freight train from running around on ice, Big C. The 40-14 beatdown was impressive, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you just got to show that you don't have a fear factor against Derrick Henry. He showed that he has a problem running in cold weather, Charlton. He had a problem last year in Kansas City in the cold weather. He had a problem last night in Green Bay in the cold weather. Ryan Tannehill had no problem running the ball. He took it up for a long touchdown run at one point in the game, Charlton. But this game was all about Aaron Rodgers and the receivers for Green Bay. I mean, the running game was solid. You know, when you look at Dillard and you look at Jones, they had outstanding games running the football, Charlton. But Aaron Rodgers, you know, continued to be the hot Aaron Rodgers all year long. He melted a little snow last night in Lambeau.
He was melting snow. Dillon finished 124 yards, 2 touchdowns on 21 carries. Jones 94 on 10 attempts. They've been doing their thing for the Packers. But I want to talk about Aaron Touchdown Rodgers, Big C. He was 21 of 25 in the snow. His hands were frozen, but he was still 21 of 25 with frozen hands like on frozen pond, Big C. Goldie Hawn back in the day. 231 yards, 4 touchdowns with frozen hands. He did have the one pick, but I'll say it's not his fault. It was the ice, Big Z. And then touchdown Devontae Adams. He was amazing. 11 of 12 targets, Big Z. 142 yards, 3 touchdowns. He deserves the Big C burger. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, when you think of that combination, it's as good as any combination in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers continued his miraculous touchdown pass streak, Charlton, in this game last night, you know, and you know, when you think about him, he's 12th in attempts in the NFL, yet he's leading the NFL in touchdown pass, and he's passed well over 4,000 yards this season, Charlton.
Yeah.
He's the clear-cut favorite right now for the MVP of the league.
Not so fast, my friend. You have Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. They're making those commercials together with State Farm and some type of steak. I'm sure the winner of the MVP will get the Big C burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats, and I was really impressed. With 4, come on, it was frozen, and he still only had 4 completions, all fair and level war. Tonight's game, Big C, Buffalo Bills at the New England Patriots. And I know a lot of people, they want to look at what happens in the world of NFL football, and it's always, these are the times where you realize the league did it right coming down to the stretch. Monday Night Football, we know the game's underway. Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen has gotten into the rhythm against 3 strong defenses over the past few weeks. Against the 49ers, the Steelers, the Broncos. Allen's doing his thing out of California, Big C. Went to Fireball High School in West Hill, Reedley College, and then went up to Wyoming. Now he's playing in Buffalo. 84 of 123 passes, 68% passes, 972 yards, 8 yards per attempt, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception, 110.2 passer rating, while only 3 sacks and rushing 15 times, 72 yards, and 2 more scores against some very solid teams. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, they're the clear-cut winners of the AFC East, Charlton. They turned this organization around. You know, this reminds everybody of those Bills runs that they had back in the 90s when they went to 4 consecutive Super Bowls. This quarterback has this offense in tune. The passing game, the running game has been solid. They have not been making mistakes. And if not for that miraculous play down in the desert about 6 weeks ago against the Falcons, everybody would be saying that the Bills are the best team in the NFL.
Yeah, that's against the Cardinals. It was the Hail Murray that they threw down in the desert. New England's offense is not in a good place right now, Big C. The great Cam Newton, he dresses nice. He's thrown 5 touchdown passes, but 10 interceptions on the year. I know he had COVID-19. He's taken a sack on more than 7% of his dropbacks. He does have 11 rushing scores, making the matter even worse. Buffalo's defense has been rounding into form of late, in my opinion. Since returning from their bye season, or their bye week, the Bills have held 3 of their 4 opponents below 20 points. They forced 6 turnovers in 4 games. They've seen their yards allowed per game drop from 373 to just 312. Big C, led legit. Big C, your thoughts?
You know, Cam Newton is only the second starting NFL quarterback to throw less than a touchdown every game, Charlton. It's starting 13 consecutive games since McAllister did it back with the Baltimore Ravens when they won their first Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But Cam Newton has just not been the Cam Newton that people had seen years ago in Carolina. You know, we talked about this earlier, talking about with Dwayne Haskins, and I've mentioned this all year long with Cam Newton. He just seems to be more about Cam Newton than he is about playing quarterback in the NFL. And it starts with his antics from the huddle to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
He just doesn't seem to have a sense of urgency. It just doesn't seem important to him. It's like he's playing himself out of football instead of playing into a contract.
Yeah, I was looking forward to seeing what happens in that game tonight. But some guys would rather walk the red carpet than to walk with the Lombardi Trophy at the end of the season. So just a couple of things to wrap up today's show after the beautiful holidays. Hoping that everybody will just flush the toilet on 2020. 2021 is going to be a much better year because I'm going to start taking baths in CBD oil. My mother got her groove back. It's all fair and love and war, Big C. Washington football team released Dwayne Haskins to end the season in the week-long saga. He won't have another chance with Washington as the Washington football team released him today, but maybe he'll get a chance someplace else, Big C, and a few statements about what would you tell to him, your advice or thoughts?
Well, like I said, it's about preparation. It's about being a team leader. It's about understanding the game. It's about stop being a damn kid.
Yeah.
That's the problem with too many African-American quarterbacks, Charlton, when they come into the NFL. You know, people always say, well, why do they keep these white quarterbacks on as backups when they're less talented? Well, Charlton, they may be less talented, but they're more dedicated. That's the problem. You have to dedicate yourself. When somebody is willing to pay you millions of dollars to be dedicated to their organization, and you're going to tell them, well, I'm more dedicated to myself. I have the contract. I can do as I please. No, they can cut your butt anytime that they want.
Yeah.
You know, here's a guy who was guaranteed to make $4.4 million next year off his rookie contract.
Wow.
If he had just did what the coach said. But he was too unwilling to do what the coach said, so he was released. And he said that $4.4 million did not mean anything to him.
Yeah, well, maybe he can make it up in tips at working at the nightclubs. It's all fair and level war. The Chargers quarterback out of the Pac-12, Justin Touchdown Herbert, broke Mayfield's regular season mark for touchdown passes, finding the end zone for the 28th time on Sunday against the Broncos. He reached the mark in his 14th start at the beginning of the season as a backup to Tyrod Taylor. No wonder those Pac-12 quarterbacks look so good. Big C, your thoughts?
You know, he looks good coming from behind all the time, Charlton. He might throw these touchdown passes,
Yeah.
but he has not been able to get his team to a winning record in the paltry AFC West.
Yeah, maybe they'll just have to have him play on defense too if all's fair in love and war. The LA Rams quarterback Jared Goff suffered dislocated thumb, uncertain to play against the Cardinals, as we talked about. The Cal product has not missed a game due to injury in 5 seasons. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, those Oxycontin that they popped him on the sideline with the pretty big ass, the TV camera got a shot of, helped him get through the game. But he's going to see a hand specialist today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
Most likely will have to have surgery, and we'll see if he's able to play this coming week.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, Big C. NFL Kansas City Chiefs tight end, the great touchdown Travis Kelce, continued his dominant 2020 campaign on Sunday as he set the single-season tight end yardage record in a win over the Falcons. Kansas City standout tight end. He passed George Kittle for the 49ers for the single-season record with a 31-yard reception in the fourth quarter at Arrowhead Stadium. Big C, Kelce has a total of 1,416 receiving yards. So far in the season, Kittle set the 2019 record. He had 1,377. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, records are out there to be broken. Kansas City Chiefs have such a dominant offense. I don't know if Kelce would add to that record this weekend. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to rest a lot of their starters getting ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, getting ready for that playoffs, Big C. We're going to fix your microphone a little bit. Fitzpatrick doing his thing in Las Vegas. In fact, he dresses like he's at Las Vegas, if that makes sense to you. He replaced Tua, eliminates the Raiders from the playoffs in a chaotic Dolphins win. For the second time in as many months, the Dolphins rookie quarterback Tua Tagovailoa was benched after a shaky performance with just under 10 minutes to play in the fourth quarter. And Miami trailing 16-13, head coach Brian Flores opted to go with the veteran Fitzpatrick under center. To that point, Tua was only 17 of 22, 94 yards and a touchdown, and was sacked 3 times. Swaggy Fitzpatrick immediately led the Dolphins with a 13-play, 84-yard drive that ended on a game-tying field goal with just 4 minutes to play. 2 teams combined for 22 points over the game's final 4 minutes and 1 second, including 2 field goals in the last 19 seconds. Fitzpatrick was 19 of 13, 182 yards, and a touchdown, was not sacked, and John Gruden got out-coached by a rookie coach. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, I'm really impressed with what Fitzpatrick did coming into the game. You think about the rookie quarterback for the Dolphins. I mean, this is his 3rd game that he had less than 100 yards passing. but he had the veteran to be able to pull him out, Charlton. And when you look at Fitzpatrick's numbers, he was on pace to complete 36 passes for over 700 yards in this game if he had been the starter. So that Raiders defense will get any quarterback healthy.
You want to get healthy, get a game against the Raiders is all fair in love and war. I want to just think about this. NFL football is tough to play. Saints running back Alvin Kamara, he tied a single-game NFL record, Big C. 6 rushing touchdowns in New Orleans' 52-33 win over the Minnesota Vikings on Christmas Day. His 6th and final touchdown came with just a minute 50 to go in the contest, helped seal New Orleans' victory. Kamara had 6 scores, brought him to a tie with Hall of Famer Ernie Nevers of the Chicago Cardinals, who ran for 6 touchdowns in a 19-29 win over the Bears, Big C. New Orleans Pro Bowl running back finished the game 22 carries. Listen up, Cleveland. 22 carries, 155 yards, and additionally had 3 catches for 17 yards, Big C. Your thoughts?
You know, I mean, when you think about the outstanding game that Alvin Kamara had on Christmas Day, it must have been the shoes. He had on a pair of green and red shoes, Charlton, for this outstanding performance on Christmas Day. But he easily could have scored a 7th touchdown that Coach Sean Payton took him out of the game on that series inside the red zone, Charlton, and allowed Taysom Hill to run the ball in for that touchdown. Otherwise, he'd be standing alone atop of the NFL record books with 7 rushing touchdowns in a single game.
Mike Ditka wouldn't play Walter Payton at one time in the Super Bowl against New England. It's all fair and love and war. Sometimes coaches just don't understand, Big C. 2020 NFC East. The greatest hits, a compilation will make you laugh, cry, and cringe. The Philadelphia Eagles lost, officially eliminating them from competition. The Washington football team will win the division with the victory over the Eagles on Sunday in Philadelphia. Washington also has no idea who will be starting at quarterback. The Eagles defeat Washington. The winner of the Giants-Cowboys game earlier in the day at MetLife Stadium will be crowned the division winner. In 2020, Carson Wentz went from trendy MVP candidate to backing up touchdown Jalen Hurts at the end of the year. Daniel Jones began a 3-year similar redemptive arc, Big C. The second year of the Dwayne Haskins era in Washington is over. He'd rather hang out at strip clubs in the COVID-19 era. And think about this. Mike McCarthy began the season by admitting that he lied to Jerry Jones. Here's a wish list of some people that he started games with at quarterback in the NFC East this year. Kyle Allen, Andy Dalton, Ben DiNucci, Big C, Garrett Gilbert, Colt McCoy, Jalen Hurts, and Taylor Henneke, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at that list of unknown starting games in the NFC East, you have to wonder why the conference is so bad. You have to look no further than that. But, you know, Charlton, this is the reason why these different quarterbacks start. Because they make it to the stadium ahead of time, ahead of everybody else. They study. And when they're called upon to be ready to go in and have game action, Charlton, they're ready, something that Dwayne Haskins was unwilling to do. And when you look at some of these lifetime backups in the NFL, Charlton, that's the reason why they're lifetime backups. They really don't have aspirations to be starters. They have aspirations to get that continuous game check. And so they do whatever the owner says and the head coach do that says to keep a job.
Well, maybe all those strippers will pay Haskins $4 million he was going to get, Big C. NFL touchdown, Aaron Rodgers have MVP locked up, maybe. Passing stats, 44 touchdowns. That's number 1 in the league. 4,059 yards. That's number 5 in the league. 119.4 passer rating. That's number 1 in the league, Big C. 70.3% completion percentage. That's 2nd in the league. 32 touchdowns. No interceptions in the red zones. 5 interceptions overall. He's a 12-3 record. And I think he played football in the Pac-12, Big C. Your thoughts?
And he locked up the MVP, Charlton, last night because Patrick Mahomes will not play in the final game of the season. He will not eclipse 5,000 yards passing for his second season in the NFL, Charlton, doing that. But Aaron Rodgers has undoubtedly had an MVP season. We got
to flicker your microphone, Big C. We got about 2 more minutes. NFL football. The Chiefs are playing the game in a different setting. NFL passing leader, Mahomes. NFL receiving leader, Kelsey. Number 2, touchdowns, Cheetah. Number 3 in interceptions, Honey Badger. Think about it, it's 23-1 this team in their last 24 games. They've locked up the AFC West and the AFC first round. They'll get a bye, Big C. Your thoughts?
And they've dominated the NFL, Charleston, the last 2 years. When you look at the Chiefs' overall record, they're the defending Super Bowl champions. They're the only team in the AFC with a bye going into the playoffs. They're the hands-down favorite. I know people have said they haven't scored the type of points that they want to see them score.
Yeah.
But all they do is win, baby.
Yeah, all they do is DJ Khaled. All they do is win, win, win no matter what. They deserve the Big C burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. And you get it when you win. Big C, last NFL story. Indianapolis Colts, they help avoid becoming the third. Think about it. They need help becoming the third 11-win team to miss the playoffs. The Colts can no longer say those things after they embarrass themselves by blowing a 17-point second-half lead in their loss to the mighty Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday. The Colts need one of three things to happen before their game in order to position themselves to make the playoffs for just the second time since 2014. They need Baltimore loses to Cincinnati. Miami needs to lose to Buffalo. Cleveland loses to Pittsburgh. If any of those things happen, the Colts will simply need to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars to lock up a playoff spot. Big C, I don't think they're getting in. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, this is one of the mysteries of the NFL, Charleston. They had a pathway into the NFL on Sunday. All they had to do was maintain that 17-point lead over the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yep.
But Phillip Rivers did a Phillip Rivers. Oh, let me turn over the damn football to the opposing team.
Yeah.
And Pittsburgh capitalized on that, Charleston. They were able to score points. Ben Roethlisberger got his arm out of the mothballs, threw 3 touchdown passes in the fourth quarter to lift the Steelers to the victory, Charleston.
Yep.
But here it is. Phillip Rivers is going to have to play a mistake-free game in the final game of the season. They need to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars and let the chips fall where they may.
Yep.
Can the Steelers stay hot for 2 consecutive games and beat up on the Browns, whose running game was paltry last week?
Yep.
We know that the Ravens should dominate their game, Charlton. They've gotten their running game back, and they're solid.
Yep.
So it's going to come down to one of those late games and see if the Colts are able to get in. You know, this is one of those that you got to cross your fingers for and use that horseshoe, maybe sit on it.
Yeah, maybe sit on the horseshoe if that makes sense to you. It's all fair and level. I love NFL football. I also want to ask one more thing to the world of college football and all the bowl committee people. The people that keep the West Coast out of playing for championships because they say the competition is not the same. Well, NCAA college football in the final minute, Big C, bowl committee. Think about this. In games played, not voted for, like Trump says, count all the votes. No, don't count the votes. Count them. Count all the votes. The West Coast beats another Southern power in a bowl game. University of Hawaii 28, Houston Cougars 14. That game was in Frisco, Texas. That means bowl committee. The West Coast is 3-0 against Southern powers, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I love the games that are played before the varsity games. I always call the junior varsity. The varsity games start on January 1st when we have the bowl championship.
Yeah.
You know, the junior varsity games are all those warm-up games that you play before them to let them get a little spotlight.
Well, they don't let us in, so it's all fair and level war. I'm going to tell you, we always salute the military. House of Representatives, they voted to increase the stimulus bill payment from $600 to $2,000 for qualified Americans. And really important, the United States House of Representatives, they overrode Trump's veto of the defense bill. And that's going to help our military for the next year. It's all fair and level war. Big C is so important. We talk about so many things, but funding to keep Americans from starving, people will lose unemployment benefits for 1 week. So President said you can starve another week. His family's not starving, his kids are not starving, and he's not starving while he's playing golf. But it is going to be some light at the end of the tunnel, even though it's late for millions of people. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, this is what Donald Trump has shown, his lack of empathy towards American citizens. It's been all about himself and self-serving and grandstanding while he's out been playing golf during the holiday seasons, costing American taxpayers $1 million a day while he's out playing golf, while people cannot feed their kids, pay their rent, or put food on the table.
Yeah, he's the real Grinch that stole Christmas. It's all fair and level war. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in this sports universe?
Well, Charlton, we're 4 days away from the varsity teams in college football start to play their games with 3 Southern quarterbacks that's going to be heading 3 of those teams in the playoffs, Charlton. We're also 23 days away from the end of Trump presidency,
yes,
which will make a lot of Americans happy. I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, Charlton, who've made a lot of Americans healthy. Our nurses, doctors, and our first responders. Stay on the job. Keep going strong.
Keep going strong. Keep going strong. Keep going strong every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide. You can follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.